Good morning, everyone, or just good day in general. It's Jennifer Bourikas, broker with Century21 Miller, and I've asked my amazing client connection, Reena Visani, mortgage agent with Dominion Lending, to come join me today. Welcome, Reena.
Thank you for having me here, Jen.
I'm so glad you were able to join me, and I know you and I would rather meet in person over coffee. Our conversations always go from personal to business, back to personal, and all over the place. So one of the reasons I asked you to join me today was I'm seeing a huge concern with multiple offers in the market right now. If a house isn't holding multiple offers, it organically will go into multiple offers, and inevitably, buyers are paying way more than asking. That being said, sometimes the asking is below what the average, sale has been in the neighborhood. Sometimes it's actually right at the most recent comparable. And because of the number of buyers circling around right now, the house goes into multiples and over asking. So the concern I have, and I know what I'm saying to my clients, I always like to prepare my clients. That Girl Guide in me always prepares my clients for many different scenarios, right? And maybe I've referred a client to you and you've pre-approved them for 1.2. We go to see a house, say for example, that's $1,050,000, and we end up getting the house for 1.35. The conversation I have is, what is your backup plan, right? Because you and I both know that the appraiser is going to come in, and I kind of have two questions for you. What do you say to clients? But also, what are appraisers doing right now when the comps doesn't really matter what the comps are, because things are selling for way more than asking. So maybe we can kind of touch on both of those things.
So those are two really good questions, and I'll start with the first one. So, when it comes to lending, right, the banks will typically use, they want to appraise the property. They want to know if it's at, if the client's paying at the fair market value, right? Because they're lending on the property as well, right? So
Mhm.
typically what will happen in this case is, let's say if you're going above asking, and let's say you're buying it at 1.3, but the appraisal comes back at 1 point, let's say 1.1, right? The
Right,
bank only lend based on whichever is the lesser value. So it's either the appraised value or the offer price. In
right,
this case, if the appraised value comes back lower, the client has to come up with the additional funds. So
right.
anytime, a client's in that situation, I ask them, what's the backup plan? Do you have a contingency fund?
Yeah.
Do you have, savings set aside in case we do have to come up with a shortfall, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Whatever additional you would need to come up with.
Hmm.
So that's one, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of like what, how appraisals are coming and all that, right? Like it's typically based on the most recent sales, right? So in that area, so they'll use the three most comparables that's similar to that unit and whatever, right? So
Hmm.
they take that into consideration as well in the last, typically the last 90 days, but they use the closest sale
Right,
to that. So
right. So are you finding that most appraisals are coming in under what people are paying right now?
I am. I mean, I haven't, but I have been hearing there are typically shortfalls,
Yeah,
which does happen, and banks can't control appraisals, right? It's
right,
in that case, like if that does happen, one of the steps is like a contingency fund, or we get a second opinion, right?
right.
Because appraisals are, an appraisal's value, right? So getting a second opinion is always another way we could also do it too, right?
Yeah,
So
I remember 2017, there was one house where I believe the buyer actually ended up with four different appraisals.
yes,
So, I guess, you'll
and
try
it's
everything you can.
costly. Yeah, it is costly, but I mean, at the end of the day, that is another, way of, finding a solution if
Right.
we
And you touched on that. It is the buyer who pays for the appraisal, correct?
correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So basically, one of the things I do is I often will, if a client's got 1.2 million, then I'm showing them maybe up to 900,000. I know just because they've been approved for a certain amount doesn't mean that they should spend that amount, right? And so there's workarounds, absolutely. And I really appreciate you giving me your take on what's happening with, buyers right now in the market and appraisals and basically how to be prepared, right? How to be prepared for many different,
Different situations. Exactly.
situations. Exactly. So thank you so much, Reena. I always appreciate your insight, and I don't know how to get to the top of my screen now. So, technical difficulties right in our age, but thank you so much for joining me, and have yourself an amazing day. Thanks, Reena.
Thanks.